the topics we're talking about today, we're actually doing, we got some VMs set up for you all to play along with, and those VMs will be active through, I think this Saturday. So you can just follow along now and kind of play along, play with it now or play with it later, and give you some time to kind of absorb some of the stuff because we only got like 30 minutes, so we got a lot of material to go through. And these are the link to the slides so that you can actually take home kind of a cheat sheet so you can kind of digest some of this and play with it on the VMs later. So that's kind of what we're going over. So real quick, I've used an environment called it's our Kali Linux with Metasploitable 3 environment. It's a fairly new environment. Want to check that out? Go ahead and log in now. Click on that link and register using your Google or Microsoft login. Make sure you turn off pop-up blockers, and that'll spin up your VM, or actually it'll give you your VM, and you need to actually hit the power button and start it up. And while it's starting up, you can go through. You can see what we're talking about, and then we'll jump into some of the examples. If you like this topic, command line tools and POSIX regular expressions and stuff like that, this is a pretty good book a friend of mine wrote. He and I co-authored some stuff together a couple decades ago, I guess. Wow. And but it's still very relevant. Unix doesn't change much, and so these are all Unix/Linux POSIX command line utilities and tricks and tips, kind of like what I'm doing today, but much more in depth. 1,000+ commands to check out. So you can check that out. That's on Amazon for pretty cheap, I think. They have Fedora, Ubuntu, BSD versions of that book. So again, this week we're going to be doing tricks and tips. It's kind of a POSIX tools and the Unix philosophy. So the Unix philosophy is many small tools that do one thing well. And instead of creating a monolithic app, the Unix, the creators of Unix, instead of creating monolithic apps like a big giant spreadsheet or a big word processor, they found there's much more power and utility in creating very small tools that do one thing very well. So there's about 160 commands in the POSIX library. We're just going to be going over the 4 on the left: find, grep, tr, and cut, which by themselves are very powerful. But you combine it with tools like on the right, like xargs, links, wget, and nmap, and suddenly it becomes very, very powerful. Combined with that regular expressions, and that becomes a power multiplier that makes it even more powerful. So basically combining and piping these commands together is what gives us that power, and regex cranks it up to 11. So let's jump right in. So the whole power of, you hear people talk about the power of the Unix philosophy and many small tools. The idea is you have small, simple tools, things like ls and cut and grep, that output things, and they get piped into the following command. So you have command 1 piping out to command 2, piping out to command 3. When I say piping out, it's what's called standard output. So there's 2 kinds of output. There's standard output and standard error. We're going to be mainly playing with standard output today and sending standard error to the bit bucket, making it go to dev null and go away in some of our cases, so we don't have to look at all the errors. One example, here's an example of how to find all MP3 files under all the user home folders and copy them over to my server on the internet. Okay, this is something I've done on a web server before. I've jumped on someone's server. I had a customer once that said, "Hey, I'm decommissioning the server. You want all my music?" I'm like, "Sure." Let's run this one-liner, and that's the find command piping into the xargs command, which then feeds its output into the SCP, the secure copy command, which copies it, all the stuff in the brackets over to my web server or mymachine.com there. Another example, some things I use from the real world. Find me all large files over 200 megabytes that are older than 2 years old and email me the list. And I can look over the list, and then if I don't like, if I'm sure I want to get rid of those files, then I can just, instead of piping it to mail, I can pipe it to RM for delete. So I can delete those files or move them to an archive folder or move them off to backup. Get rid of them, get them off the hard drive. So this is a good way of freeing up space. Anytime I'm running out of hard drive space, it's the first thing I do. Hey, where are my old big files? And let me do something with those. Here's a really simple example. Show me how many users on my system are running the bash command, are running the bash shell. So this greps is global regular expression print. That is basically a filter saying, hey, look for all occurrences of the word bash in my Etsy password user listings and count them. And so this is really, really useful stuff. Oh, here's one of my favorites. we used back in the day at the internet hoster I worked at. This DD clones my entire hard drive, compresses it, and sends it to a backup server somewhere on the internet. Very, very powerful stuff. If you're ever on a box and you got to do some forensics, you got to clone a drive, and you don't have a spare drive with you, you can run this command and clone an entire hard drive over the internet. It's slow. It takes a while to do gigs and gigs of data, but if you have to have forensic backup, this sometimes is the best you got, and it works very, very well. If you've got a really high speed connection, then it works much quicker. So here are some examples. Here are the tools we're going to be touching on today. So find basically finds files based on size, owner, age type, dozens and dozens of different attributes, and then either lists them or does something against them, does something to them. The grep or egrep command, we're going to be mainly using egrep today because that's extended global regular expression print. It allows us to do some extra stuff for basically matches patterns, and then outputs that to whatever the next tool in the chain. Very, very powerful. It's one of those false multipliers. Those first two commands, extremely powerful together. TR translates or deletes single characters. Sometimes you just want to do a single character. In fact, I'm gonna flip over here just for a second. Yeah, we're gonna do these in order, I guess. Cut for cutting columns of text from outputs. So just like you have spreadsheets and columns, you can take text and format it with spaces or commas and cut stuff out of it and do useful stuff. And then xargs is for running commands on big complicated things you want to do with some of the outputs that you've got from the above commands. Links is a really powerful, very convenient command line CLI, command line web client for interacting with web pages from the command line. And that's as simple as it sounds. That's really very, very powerful. wget is similar to that, but it downloads files. So you can download PDFs and download GitHub repositories. You can clone entire websites with that one little command there, wget, very powerful. And then of course, a lot of us are familiar with nmap, network port scanner. That's actually part of why we got into this, was to show, I had a teacher ask, hey, how do I scan my network? It's like, okay, well, you got to find out what your network is first using these other commands, and then you can use nmap very quickly. Let's look at the first two real quick. So here's an example, find, starting from slash root, iname, which is insensitive, case insensitive name, anything with star.mp3. So this finds basically all MP3 files on my hard drive and lets me do something with them. I can output those to other commands. I can pipe them to other commands, as we'll see in here in a little bit. There's egrep. I want to show you this one. Grep. So grep basically searches for something, and this is the file name it's searching through. Or we can pipe something to it. Let me flip over here to my VM. Hopefully you guys have your VMs up. Let me find my VM. Oh, look at this. I'm gonna have to exit out of here. Here's my VM. Let me pull that out of there. I'm gonna power that up. I didn't power my VMs up, did I? All right, that's gonna take a second to come up. That's all right. I can show you these commands on my own system. So I'm gonna bring the slideshow back up and bring up my shell. So here I am. I want to see, for example, how many. This command specifically is looking at a field in Etsy password. If I cat out Etsy password, pipe it into grep also, and just show me all users that have, I don't know, let's say a UID of 1,000 or higher. I can even do this like .star. I'm getting away from my examples here. Let's see, let's do this. This shows me a whole bunch of users that start with 1, but also has 121, 117. These have 3 and 4 digit. So if I want to limit this, I can say, okay, I want to look at all users that have start with 1 and then have characters 0 through 9. 0 through 9. I'm doing this because user IDs start at 1,000 and go up are my user IDs. If I did 3 digits instead of 4, then it would show me my system daemons. So these are services that are running on my system. If I wanted to see how many I had, I can start piping it into other things like this is a free. This isn't on my list here, but this is a freebie. Word count. So I can say how many daemons do I have running? I've got 33 daemons installed on the system. How many users do I have? 039, 039. I have 4 users. So this starts becoming very useful. So you can quickly audit a system and see what's going on. I specifically chose egrep so I can show you. You can simplify some of this stuff. For example, if these last 2 digits, this is a digit range, by the way. So this is saying, show me any users that start with a 1 and have 2 digits after the 1. That shows me my daemons. If I did 3, then that will show me my users. Okay, so that starts to become somewhat powerful. Okay, looks like I've got my VM up. I want to start that up. Hit play, join. Did I hit it? There we go. Oh, there we go. Let's bring my VM up. And you'll want to open. We're going to be on the command line the entire time, so you want to go ahead and open up. Click on the terminal icon here. This is our new Kali environment. Looks really cool. Looks awesome. Our DevOps engineer Dom put this together for us. Looks pretty slick. I hit Control++ and make it bigger if you want to. And you can do the same kind of thing here. So I can just grep it directly. Grep 1 was my example, 909. Etsy password, or I can cat it and pipe it in either way. Or if I'm going to do 3. Now I used grep there. I almost made the mistake. You do this command with grep, it will not work. You need egrep. So egrep works. I think grep gives you an error. No, it just doesn't do anything. Okay, so extended grep is what gives us the ability to curly brackets and some other conditionals. So egrep, I tend to use grep by default. If it doesn't work, then I switch up to egrep. So it's a good rule of thumb. But that just shows me my number of users. Let me get back over here to my slides. This is how grep breaks down with kind of your operators and groupings of characters, how you define a match. So again, you're grepping. I say it's you're filtering, but you're matching on conditions. So show me things that have wildcard. This will match anything versus a single character. Do a single character, or a single character followed by a wildcard would be 1 or more. If I want to group characters together or do character ranges, that's these here. I can do conditionals. Say, show me all MP3s or AVIs or DVD files, for example. So you can match on this or that type of thing, as well as beginning of line and end of line. These are very powerful also, especially if you're looking for like MP3 files, for example. We'll see that here a little bit later. Let me flip down a little bit further. Now these are some other, so just building on what we've done here. Cut is probably the next thing you want to learn about. So in this case, I'm going to cut Etsy password, or I'm going to cat Etsy password, pipe it into cut, and look for a couple of fields. In this case, I want to show the usernames, field 1, and the shells they're using, which is field 7, I think. Cat Etsy password. If you look at the structure, you've got username, X for passwords elsewhere, UID, group ID, home directory, and then their shell. So I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6. Let me try that out. I'll do a cat Etsy password and cut fields. The username is 1. It's like the shell is 6, unless I miscounted. And you have to give it a delimiter. So my delimiter here is between columns is a colon. So I'll do that, and there we go. There's the usernames and the shells they're using. Is that right? Let me try 7. See if I miscounted. There we go. That looks like a shell. I was off by 1. It is 7. So just by running that command, I can get a listing of users and what they're using as their shells. Now, a lot of these are system daemons or no login and stuff, and I can further filter this down with grep. Grep also allows me to exclude things with a -v. I can say, don't show me anything with no login. Okay. Or don't show me anything with false. Boom. And now I've got down to the point where this is actually much more useful. This is showing me real users here that and what shells they're actually using. So you can see how you can take pages and pages or megs and gigs of data and very quickly filter them down using cat, cut, and grep here. Okay. Any questions? We don't have a lot of time, but I don't want to roll over or steamroll everyone. Does anyone have any questions about what we're doing here? When you have a question about, hey, what shell? How many bash users do I have? This comes up when when you're migrating or upgrading bash or upgrading a package. How many people are using this? How many people are in the system are configured on this home path as versus our new home path or versus our old home path? So you can very quickly audit a system and get directly to the questions without ever touching a mouse, basically. If you have a question, just feel free to pipe in. I don't see the chat right now, so Maureen, you may have to get my attention, or someone may. Xargs. So these are some of the POSIX tools we just learned up here, just 3 or 4 of them. And now the tools that we can pump the output of those into, things like Xargs. Xargs will take the standard output and execute against it. So we can take, say, instead of using the find command here, I use the locate command. If I use this on my, I'm going to show you my actual desktop, my actual laptop here. If I do a, let me actually zoom this in a little bit. If I do a locate-i of all MP3 files that are in my home directory, a lot of them. And I think I want to limit this to like, limit this to things in the path MP3. There we go. So there's a few MP3 files. So I could take this command right here, this locate with this little couple greps on it, and then pipe this into Xargs. I could run this scp command. Let me see here if I can do this without too much of a hassle. Oops. Slideshow. Just went backwards. There we go. Any questions while I'm futzing around here? All right, let me see here. I'm gonna do Xargs. So Xargs stands for X arguments. -i bracket bracket. This says take everything that's being fed to me through pipe and make it appear in the following command line wherever the curly brackets appear. So this is where I would do my scp -i if I want to give it an identity like a key file, which I don't have set up, so I'm gonna have to use a password. I'm gonna go out to my real system here. Unix.org. I normally never do this, but what the heck. And this is the actual destination on my web server, if I can remember this correctly. Shrink it down a little bit. Files, and I think I want to put it here. It's going to find all the files, filter it down, send it to SCP, and it should SCP. Oh, it didn't like that. Oh, I didn't tell it what to copy. The brackets. So whatever we found and filtered, send it, SCP it, over to my server. Of course, it's going to ask me for a password for each one of these. But normally I would set this up with an SSH key and it would just do it. And in fact, after that, you could script this and make it automatic. And there we go, all done. So right there, you could do this with the entire hard drive. Say, send all MP3s over to my web server, or my media server, or whatever. So very, very powerful stuff. Now this gets into more command line tools like links. I love links. I think we got this working on the range. If you want to try this, first thing I want to show is a special way we have of encapsulating commands. So this is not in my other documentation, but you'll see it right here. Anything in $paren, it executes the command and returns it into that location. So for example, I could say echo. First of all, I want to show you what Links is. Links is a web browser. This is a favorite website of mine. If you're in IT, you should know this. icanhasip.com. A friend of mine at Rackspace set the site up so he could tell what NATed IP he was getting onto the internet from. So your own IP may be 10. Or 192. But when you come out onto the internet, you're going to go typically through a NAT or a concentrator of some type, and you don't know what that IP is. So you're asking the outside world, hey, what's my outside world IP? I can go to, well, let me show you, even before I go there, I'll just show you, go into google.com. Oops, can't type. Google.com. So go here, going through the cyber range proxy, and I keep hitting yes, 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 accept the cookies. And there we go. So now I'm at google.com. I can say, hey, show me all things. I'm going to Google myself. This is actually Google from the command line. If you've never done this, it's kind of cool. There you go. There's your web searches for whatever you're looking for. Similarly, you can go out to any website. So links, if I go out to icanhasip.com, I just told you about, accept all the cookies, and it shows you your IP address. That's that's your public facing IP address. Very, very useful. You combine this with the -dump option and it just dumps it right to the command line. That's even more powerful because now we can use it to do stuff like this. Echo my public IP is $ parentheses links dump icanhasip.com. There you go. So now we got this done, we can start doing some really, really powerful stuff with regards to networking and firewalling and stuff like that. Any questions before I go on? There's a lot to take in very quickly because we're on limited time, but I always want to answer questions. Anyone at all? wget. Wget's pretty handy. For example, if I wanted to say, I'm gonna say, look for some PDF, grab some PDF. So RT FM PDF is what I wanted, I think. So I go out and see, by the this teachers, this is a really good resource, Hacking Books. Tank 7's Hacking Books list. Check this out. He's got books on Kali, on red team, blue team stuff, hacker playbook. I don't know if this is legal, but it's a great list of resources here. I'm going to go check out this Kali Linux command sheet, and I could download it here, but my server, your server may not have your desktop environment, or your machine VM may not have a desktop. So if it doesn't, you can go to copy the link and then just paste it into your VM. Say wget paste. By the way, paste on the command line is Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V, not just Control-C and V. Control-C will break whatever you're running, so it's Control-Shift, Control-Shift. So I'm going to do a wget, and that went out and grabbed that PDF. So now I've got that. I can pull it up, XPDF. There you go. So I just downloaded that from the command line. No browser needed. You can even use links to go find it using Google. So it's all built in. So very powerful stuff. And then this last command is kind of what really got me into this. I was telling a teacher how to do this. He said, how do I scan my own network? How do I know what my network is? I know what my IP address is. I said, well, you can do this IP ADDR show ETH0, and that'll spit it out. But if you want to automate this, you need this specific line down here. This is your v4 10.CIDR block. So that's your IP address followed by the CIDR block notation of how big your network is. So not too hard to grab that. We can just pipe this into, I don't know. What do you guys tell me? What would we grep for to get that line of text? Anybody? How many people do we have on, Marina? Maybe this is unrealistic if we have a small group. Okay, I'm going to grep for the word INET. I grep for INET. Oh darn, I get two things back. Okay, I don't want that. I just want not INET 6. I want INET, just regular INET. So INET space. Put a quote around it. There we go. That's useful. Now, how would I get the IP block and not all that other junk? Based on the tools we've been using, grep will find the whole line. So it returns the whole line that has the match. We could use the cut tool. We kind of went over cut a little bit, but it's harder with spaces. When cut is using a semicolon, it's pretty easy. But when you have spaces, white space, these are each spaces. So each one of these spaces is its own column. So this is like column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could probably do something like that, but I like to pump it through TR, which can squeeze down all the spaces to single spaces. Then it makes the output more predictable. Okay, you see the difference between this line up here and this line here? I collapsed all the spaces to single spaces. So now I can say cut field 1. The first one's blank, so field 2, 3. Field 3, if my delimiter is space, boom, there's my IP address. Now I can do stuff like parentheses, go to the beginning of the line, parentheses, port my net equals. I just grabbed it. Now I can say, now I can have a variable called mynet. Here's my network. Once I have that, I can say nmap. Let's just do a quick ping scan. It's no port scan of aggressive. T4 is aggressive. Mynet. There we go. And that will scan our network. Now I don't have to have the mynet there. I could just follow it by this thing here. So I could say nmap blah, put that there. And that would also work. Point being is it's a nice automated way of telling your students, hey, just run this IP ADDR show. And the cool thing is you're teaching them other stuff at the same time. You're teaching them how to fish by teaching them these POSIX tools and how to use IP ADDR. For example, instead of ifconfig, which ifconfig doesn't show it to you in a CIDR notation, so they should be using IP ADDR format anyway. So, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. So learning it using IP ADDR is probably the better, more modern way of doing that, and it'll get you the CIDR notation you need, which is what this is here, to scan your entire network. I get this one a lot because people do an ifconfig where they're not sure how to scan their network. So you want to either scan it using a netmask or your CIDR block notation, which are the same thing. So you either have 255 notation, which is called I think that's VLSR notation, versus /20, which is your CIDR notation, so which is more modern. And this will come back. Our scan will come back here in a second, telling us how many machines are on our network. So that is that's really what led to this, was that last command there, how to use nmap to scan my network and how to get your IP block. If anyone knows a better way of getting your IP block, let me know. That's just what I've been using for years, and so it's become habit. since there's no questions, here's some other useful commands. Here's show me all user files on in /home that are over 100 megs in size, and display the file size. So this is something else you can do with find. You can tell it, once you find these files, do something, execute this command. So this will actually show you the files and how big they are. So otherwise you just get file names. This will show you the files, their sizes, and that H gives it to you in human readable format. By the way, you'll see this at the end, this $2 $. We've been operating on standard output. This is standard error. So these are all the errors that crop up when you scan the entire hard drive. You get a whole bunch of errors, permissions, stuff like that. This is what allows you to send that to the bit bucket. I don't want to look at that. Just give me the output. We're out of time, so I'm going to quickly go. So show me all files in home that are 100 meg in size and over 2 years old. I think we touched on that. Find grep together. Find all files that end in MP3 or MP3 uppercase, AVI uppercase, or MP4 up. That's supposed to be MP4 uppercase. Do that like this: grep case insensitive, and then parentheses. Look for MP3 or AVI or MP4. And that $sign means end of line. So in other words, it can't be anywhere in the file path name. It has to be the last characters of the file name have to be MP3, AVI, and MP4. So this is very, very powerful stuff here. Otherwise, you get thousands, possibly thousands of things that have MP3 in the directory name, for example. That $sign stops that because that's the end of line. So you're matching on things only at the end of the line. That is super powerful. And then the other example we gave for using IP80DR inside a command and then scanning MyNet. I think that's about it. You guys are welcome to keep these slides. These slides should stay over time. They are Creative Commons, so if you use them in class, be sure to give us credit. And these play along VMs will be active until the end of the week, so you can play with those for the rest of the week. Here's some CTF resources for you all, knowledge-based resources, as well as a lot of these videos. All these videos actually end up on our YouTube channel. If you haven't been out there, there's lots of really great content by mostly David and myself and some of the other folks, and some of you teachers are out on there from our conferences too. Be sure to check that out. And as always, if you have any support questions, just send a ticket to support@virginiacyberange.org. That's about it. Yeah, I think that's it.